Hello everyone, I am back and I have two reviews for you. I'm sorry I've been gone, school was really busy, but it's summer now. I have time to review. Not to mention I would be doing a project this summer which will be coming out around July. More on that in another video. Right now I'm going to review VHS 2 and After Earth. Let's start off with VHS 2. Now you know I was anticipating this movie. It was my most anticipated of the year, which... okay, it's not anymore, much ado about nothing, beat out. Oh, by the way, review coming for that soon as well. Anyway, VHS 2 though, I enjoyed it. But, if you wanted, you know, I'm sorry, I got a new camera, I'm getting used to how I'll adjust everything. Anyway, it's not scary. This is a much lighter film. It's trying to be much more fun and not as depressing, and it won't scare you as much, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let me start off with the first short. The first short is by far the weakest of all, but it's still very good. Well, okay, I should say very good. It has its flaws, but I'll get to those in a minute. Funny thing is this is actually the only director who returned from the first VHS, and he directed my favorite short of that one, which was the first short. But in this one, he has a very creative way of showing how he films, but unfortunately, I really just was not scared. There wasn't even really an intense moment in this one. I mean, it had a creative premise, and I really enjoyed it. I was intrigued by it. But unfortunately, this one just isn't scary. It's not intense. Fun to watch, though, yes. And I'll get more on that when I talk about the whole movie as a whole. The movie as a whole, I'm sorry. Second short is directed by the director of the Blair Witch Project, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I can honestly say, this was a ton of fun to watch. It was a very funny short, as well as a very creative way to show it through a GoPro camera. I don't want to really tell you the plot of this one, because it sort of gives away the fun. And when you find out what it is, you will be in for laughs, gore, and just an overall blast with this short. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to start ranking the shorts as, you know, little individuals, but I'm not going to have red rowing, though, for the individual shorts. The first one gets a C+, the second one gets a B. The only thing I really had a problem with the second short is that it went on a bit too long, could have been cut down just a bit. On to the third short, which is arguably the best. Safe Haven is one I kept hearing about. That's the title of the short. I don't know the other two. I kept hearing about it from all the photos I saw. I thought it looked really cool, and I'm happy to say it was awesome. This is the only one that legitimately scared me, especially toward the end, where it gets just frantic and insane, and you are just gasping to try to catch your breath from what's going on. And not to mention, it's very intense too. And I like how it wasn't just your typical zombie or, you know, monster or anything. It was about a cult, and I think that's really interesting. And now there was something at the end, which I'm going to talk about in the spoiler section, that honestly I could have done without. I still thought it was a very good short. I'm going to give it a B+. Now on to the final one, which I said Safe Haven was arguably the best. I'm sorry, I said that really weird. But this is by far my favorite. It's an alien one, and I don't want to say much more than that. You're either going to love or hate this one. I personally loved it. Do the aliens look stereotypical? Yes. But those actors in the car, I don't even know if they were actors. Maybe they were CGI, I can't remember. But just how they move just sells it. It just sells it. Not to mention, I loved how it was lit. And I love a good sci-fi. I enjoyed this. I thought it was intense. Can't really say it was scary, and not to mention, this is told from a dog's point of view. I don't want to tell you, well, okay, I could tell you how, but I'm not going to. I don't feel like it. I don't know, I feel like that'd kind of take it away a bit. But anyway, I digress. It's told from a dog's point of view. You see through the eyes of a dog. That is a really inventive way to show how you film. That's an inventive way. That's very creative. And it is a ton of fun to watch. Which, I'm going to give it a B+, by the way. But now I want to talk about the movie as a whole. Is the main plot of them going to a house trying to Okay, actually, it's very much like the original, but there is a difference. They're not going in looking to steal VHS tape. They're going in to look for a missing teenager. I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's a child or a teenager. But what I liked about it is they actually had references to the other original film. Like, you'll find a tape of the guys from the original film. That's very cool. I enjoyed that. Or you'll find... Actually, there's another one that I won't say. And here's the thing. The thing about the first VHS is the characters were completely unlikable. And this one, they actually try to flesh them out and make them somewhat likable. And though sometimes the fleshing out of the characters doesn't really work, they still feel just, you know, Finn is just... I don't want to say Finn. What's the right word? They feel... I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm sorry. They don't feel real. They don't. But I'm not going into a horror movie for that. I'm going into the scares, the gores, and the overall fun factor. And though this film does deliver on the intensity and gore, it unfortunately does not deliver on the scares, which is why this film won't get an A like the original. But you must remember that this could very well change. It took a while for the first VHS to grow on me until I gave it that A rating. I originally gave it a B+, which is probably what I'm going to give this one. Okay, I am. It gets a B+, but I want to keep talking about it. And yes, if you like the original, I'm sure you'll like this one. Unless you were going in expecting a very scary movie. And if you were, you might be a little disappointed like I was. But you will still have a blast watching the movie. And the best part about this is it makes the series better as a whole. And I hope they continue with a third film. Because, either way, I can recommend the VHS series. For people who don't get scared very easily, I recommend the first one. For people who are scared a lot easier, I recommend the second. So, now all they need to do is create the perfect balance of fun and scares, hopefully with VHS 3. I'm going to give VHS 2 once again a B+. And now, After Earth. This movie was a piece of crap. This movie had horrible acting, which I don't think is the actor's fault. I believe it's Shyamalan's fault. I mean, for crying out loud, he made Mark Wahlberg a bad actor in The Happening, and I know he can act. And he does this again with Jaden and Will Smith. Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness, he was fantastic. I loved him in Ali. Yeah, he was in Ali, I'm sorry. Drawing a blank there. But anyway, and Jaden Smith. I've seen Jaden Smith act well, and I feel he could become a much better actor. Maybe even as good as his father if he had the right director. But unfortunately, he's in a Shyamalan picture. Not to mention, this film is boring. It is painfully slow. This is the most boring adventure film I've ever seen. Not to mention, you know how I like good sci-fi? This isn't one of them. It has interesting ideas, but none of them are done well, especially the idea of ghosted. This idea got a little confusing. I don't want to say how, but for a very simple idea, getting rid of our fear to become the perfect soldier so these things can't sense you. But there's a time where a character, okay, that's a spoiler actually. I'm not going to do that. They make it seem like ghosting is a choice, and I don't think that's how it would work, at least in my mind. I feel like ghosting would be something that just happens, not a choice. So I feel that they did that quite wrong, at least in my eyes. Also, there are laughable moments in this movie, especially with the CGI. The CGI in this movie is awful. And I'm not one to usually judge on that. I am fine with a movie having bad CGI if it's a low-budget movie. But when it's a big-budget movie with Will Smith, I'm sorry if I expect a bit more. Not to mention, these are not characters. They are tokens. They are tokens. There is the prodigy, you know, the kid who should be great. He should be this great warrior, but he's reckless and he doesn't play, but he plays by his own rules. And the father who's totally estranged from him. It's like Die Hard 5 in space. That is their relationship. Die Hard 5 in space. Well, on Earth, after, the apocalypse. Oh, not to mention M. Night. We get it. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. This movie is not good. Do not go see it. I give it a D. So those have been my micro reviews of After Earth and VHS 2. More reviews will be coming up soon, as well as a top 10 list. Goodbye, everyone. If you enjoyed this review, please like, favorite, and subscribe.